I'm grateful to see you all here at Reeling in Stigma, a gathering focused on breaking down barriers around mental health and creating meaningful change in our community.
And a key focus of tonight's discussion is how we can better support our mental health professionals, the individuals who dedicate their lives to caring for others. We'll explore the challenges they face, how we care for those who care for us, and what we can do as a community to provide the support they need.
We started talking about the fact that we wanted to focus on mental health professionals and how they have their own struggles and how they also deal with suicide or suicidal thoughts. And we started talking about, well, we could do a presentation. That's no fun. Why don't we have a conversation? Why don't we pull in the right people and then sit down and have a conversation about their experiences and what they've lived through and what advice that they have for others?
Really what brought me here tonight is that, you know, when we talk about changing the conversation, starting the conversation, it starts with starting the conversation. Tonight I hope that we're going to talk about stigma as it relates to behavioral health professionals in particular and executives in general, and try to peel it back. I think that there is a fear around job security. Like, if I disclose that I'm having depressive thoughts and or am feeling anxious or my anxiety is getting worse, that somehow it will be a fitness for duty type judgment, that there would be judgment around how can you be my behavioral health professional or my mental health professional if you two are struggling. So I do think it is a barrier, and I think that it's one that we need to acknowledge and talk about. And
experience comes not only in mental health, but also in substance use. And so one of the things that I've seen that people do often is, we start to have a little more depression, we start to have a little more anxiety, and perhaps we had this habit of saying, at the end of the day, I'm going to take the edge off with a drink. I'm going to start to treat some of this negative emotional feeling with a drink. And then we start to feel these things more, and now instead of going out and seeking help because perhaps we are afraid, maybe we turn back to that tool, and it starts to spiral down, and not to say that this is the only thing, that can lead to suicide, but more than half of suicides are correlated somehow with a substance, whether that's alcohol or drugs, right? And it's not necessarily because those things are causing it, but it's because we're using those to kind of mask these mental health symptoms, which then tend to get worse. Make it harder to get help because now we're not just admitting that we're feeling hopeless, but we kind of have to admit this other thing too, and I don't want to do that, and what are they going to think of me, right? I'm a professional. What are people going to think of me when they find out that I'm doing X, Y, and Z, or I'm not good enough, I'm going to be exposed, right? I think that was always my biggest fear, was that I wanted to be good enough. And someone that's good enough doesn't struggle with their mental health like I do. At least that's what I thought at the time. And as a result, I continued to spiral down, and I never got the help that I needed, or at least for a long time I didn't.
Disclosing suicidal thoughts and suicidal ideation, I think a lot of people believe that it is always attached to a mental illness, and it isn't always attached to a mental illness. We certainly know that there are mental illnesses that put you at higher risk of thoughts of suicide or even dying by suicide. And we also know that things like connection and the lack of connection and loneliness and other kind of environmental factors can contribute to thoughts of suicide and suicide action.
I think one of the big things when it comes to suicidal ideation is there's an automatic stigma that we add to ourselves when we have the thoughts. And so we start to already stigmatize ourselves, like, I shouldn't be thinking that, right? And so when I shouldn't be thinking that, now I'm not going to talk about it, right? And how we ask someone about it, we mentioned how we ask that question. I remember the first time that I was doing an assessment, it got down to the suicide line, and I was asking someone, if they had any thoughts of suicide, and I heard it in my voice. Like, I heard the stigma in my own voice, because I'm asking, are you feeling it? Are you having any financial insecurity? Are you having any thoughts of suicide? What did I just do? The truth is, I didn't want to live like that anymore. And if I understood that I didn't want to live like that anymore, then that gives me options, right? And so that's sometimes the conversation I'll get into with someone where we start to talk about what is not wanting to live anymore. Does it mean you really don't want to live, or does it mean you don't want to live like you're living now? Because if it means you don't want to live like you're living now, then let's take every opportunity to see if we can change that before we make this decision.